Okay, so we're going to look now at the third practical. So in this one we're looking at operators and selection statements. And the first thing we'll also look at then is the ability to get your program to be interactive with the user. So we're going to start with this one. And the first thing it asks us to do is write a Java program to accomplish the following. First one of those is to prompt the user for a decimal point, then assign a number to that suitable var, and then output the program to match this. So you're actually given an output. So again, it's not uncommon in terms of software engineering that you're given an output and this is what the user would like things to be, and then you have to go off and develop that way. So we'll go off and do that. So first things first, prompt the user for a decimal point. Okay, we'll go back and forward to this. Now remember, this is where I finished off. So this is the state that I've left my IDE in. Okay, I definitely don't need this. This was all the project or the practical from the previous week, and I have everything, as you see, left open here. I don't really need it left open, so what I'm going to do is I'm on the project folder here. I'm going to right click onto it and I'm going to go to close that project. The project's still there. I can double click, I can open it up, I can get access to everything inside it. But crucial thing is, if this is left, whenever you go to compile the new project we're about to create, it will also, if this is open, pick up any errors that you may have still within this, and it starts getting messy. So again, good principle, just keep the place tidy, just close your project. So again, what we need to do is create a brand new project for this practical. I'm going to call it, why not call it something like practical week 3. That would make sense. Again, you can see it you'll see it from up here, and you'll know exactly what it is from the file system. Go with all the defaults as we've done before, and we've now got that. Okay, so I've now got a source folder. I'm going to right click there. I'm going to create a brand new package within that, and I'm going to call it prac3, something like that. Okay, again, lowercase usually for the package names. And then inside that, I'll be able to start creating each one of these parts of the assignment. So part 1 is to do with its number manipulation. I'll call it part 1, just to be as easy as any. So again, what we're going to create here is a brand new Java project, and we'll call it part 1. Again, uppercase for the class, and any second letter. I know this is a number, but if it was something like that, the second letter within it becomes uppercase also. Again, that naming convention is very important for you. Especially if you go to do interviews and things and you're writing out a bit of code, if you miss the naming conventions, you got those incorrect, it really does stick out. It doesn't look so good. So we'll go with that. We'll go with everything else here. That's our first. Sorry, I'm creating a brand new project there. Dope. So what I should be doing is going to right click, creating a brand new class. Well, again, naming convention sensible here. So again, it should be something like pract1, same sort of process. I want a main method. I'll generate my comments as ever and click on finish. Okay, so here we go. Again, can't emphasize it enough. Make sure you put your comments and things in there as you go along with it. So what we've been asked to do then is we're going to try and get a number in from a user. So let's start constructing the class. So get number from user. Now if I'm going to get a number from a user, then I'm going to have to store it somewhere, which means I'm going to have to declare it. So declare vars. In this case, what I really need to do is declare a var to store a number, and probably that's all I will need. Okay, so I haven't done that yet. And then the next bit of it, if we look back, says okay, prompt the user. So we're getting that with the concept of being able to store it, assign it to a suitable var, fair enough, and then output these values. Okay, so the structure of our program then will go declare it, get it, and then output to screen. Okay, that's our basic structure. Now what we do is we go off and we fill in the blanks. So declaring a var, let's go back and have a sensible, or think of a sensible way of doing this. It's asking us here, please enter a decimal point number. So again, the format you should know and think, right, well, what's my best format for that? So it's not going to be an int, certainly not going to be a string, it's not going to be something like a character, but sensible sort of value there would be a double. Okay, so We've no sort of ranges put in here, but a double usually copes with most of those things. So let's just go off and do that and start the code off. So we're going to create a double here. Okay, so as usual, it's keyword. You see it coming up in a different color, and we'll call it something sensible. So input number, user number, something like that would be a good name for it. Again, what that means is almost self-documenting the code. If you look at that value further on down the code, you'll know this is the input number. This is the number that came in from wherever the source happened to be. Again, it's good to get into that habit. Now, the next thing is we want to get a number from the user. In order for us to get a number from the user, we're going to have to use something like the scanner. And the scanner class needs to be imported, and then we'll have to set the thing up, and then we can go off and use it. So let's go off and do that then. If you're going to get access to the scanner, it's sort of declared as a var, so we're actually going to do it here. So again, I'm going to go and let the IDE do a lot of work for me here. So I'm going to do control space on this, and it's going to pick out that there is this thing called scanner. Again, that's knowledge to you, that's your knowledge. You understand that there is a scanner. So click on that, and you see it actually puts the import up here for us. So it means we didn't have to go looking for it. Some things you'll remember off the top of your head, some things just by rote learning things you'll actually just recognize and remember that some of where the imports are. But in this case, it's done it for us. So now we know it's in java.util. So I'm going to declare this. Now, declaring the scanner is pretty much the same the whole way through. So create a scanner like this. System.in inside these brackets here is basically telling it how to behave, and in this case it's saying system.in is basically taking input from the system in, which is basically the keyboard in this case. So we've set this scanner up, and the scanner is saying I've got the ability, and I can now use this reference to it's actually a reference to what's called an object, and this object will allow us to do a bit of work, which that bit of work is going to be down here to allow us to get the information from the user. Again, I've done a wee bit of work there. Nothing's really going to happen, but I can either just run it. I'm not going to see anything at all if I run it. Obviously there's nothing out there. It did run, it didn't fall over. Or we could go to run, or run as. In this case it's just a Java application, so we could also do that from there. We're good to go so far. I haven't really done an awful lot in terms of the output, so we'll have to start getting that. So the next bit of this is to get a number from the user. So it is very specific. It asks you to go please enter a decimal point in the format blah 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 blah. Okay, and it gives a wee example. Again, that's what the user's asked. So why don't we do exactly that? Now I'm going to copy and paste that in, save me typing it out for the video. And it's just as we've done before, a system.out.println statement. So I'm going to put it in there. System.out.println, please enter a decimal point number. So it's just a literal string. There's nothing really exciting happening there other than that's coming out the screen. But again, I've done a bit of work. Why don't we run it and let's see how it goes, because it obviously does a save. Please enter a decimal point. Okay, now we're not prompting the user. The program is effectively finished at this stage, but we need to now interrupt and get a prompt out to the user and get them to actually input it. So we're going to ask, let's go off and we'll get that number. In order to do that, we have to use the scanner. So scanner dot, and when you hit on the dot and the dot operator, a bit like the strings that we talked about, these are a load of methods here that the scanner can do for us. And the thing that we're interested in this case is finding out the next value that's been entered in, and in particular the thing that we're interested in is the next double, because we know that we're expecting a double in from the user here. Okay, so it's not just going to read it in, it's going to read it in and treat it as a double, because if you look at that first bit of text there is actually saying what returns from this method. So it returns, goes public and then double. That says double means it's returned back into this method. Okay, we'll do more of that as we go later on in the course, but that's exactly what this thing's doing here. Now again, let's give this a squeeze. Let's see what's happening. The program isn't finished here. It's actually waiting for me to do something. So I'm going to go 3.333 whatever and hit enter. You'll see the program finished there. So now we're just reading it in, but we're not really doing an awful lot with it, because once we read it in, it's read in and then it's gone. We just basically hit enter and it was gone. We need to capture that value, and the way that we're going to capture the value is to use this as the catch. So this is our var input number. It's there for a reason, even though I didn't type it in right. That input number is going to be what's stored, or there's where we're going to store the number when it's input. So I'm going to go input number again, control space, make life easier for yourself. Okay, now we're storing it. Okay, now at this stage we could run it again if you wish, no problem, just to make sure nothing's went badly wrong. Okay, so we're storing it, but we can't really do an awful lot with it at the minute. So what we have to do is get it out to the user. Now the first thing it asks us to do then was get it out in this format here. So it needs to say number rounded to 2 decimal places, and then would depend on the number that's added in. You'll see in this case it's went to the 3rd significant figure there, and it's pushed it up to or 5th significant figure, and it's pushed it up and rounded it up. So okay, we can go off and do something like that. This one is relatively straightforward in the sense that we don't need to involve anything else other than something like a printf. So we're going to do a printf. I'm again going to copy this in and then I'll explain it to you. So system.out.printf. So if you remember from the strings, that allows you to format a string. So that's printf. It's not a print line, it's printf. So this is the bit of text that we're going to see. This is literally going to go on the screen. It's the literal text. Number rounded to 2 decimal places. That's exactly as was asked of you. So it's important you do that. And then we've got this thing here. So again, this is similar to the strings. We've got a percentage and we've got an F. So when we're doing a printf, the percentage and the F is saying, okay, I don't want you to type out a percentage and F. This is a marker for a floating point number. The 0.2 in the middle of it is saying this is the way I want you to format it, and the way that I want you to format it is to 2 decimal places. We've got a percentage N after it here, which we'll come to in a wee second, and then we've got the closing comment or the closing quote, and then we've got the things that are going to go in here. So at the minute we've only got the one thing going in here, and that just happens to be the value for input number. So whatever is ended up an input number, it's going to find itself being referenced here, but ultimately being placed quite literally into here, and it's going to be formatted with 2 decimal points. So let's give it a squeeze and we'll see what happens. So enter a decimal point number like that, for instance. So I can put in whatever I want. So I'm going to go 788. So we should see a rounding with this. I hit enter and it says rounded to 56.79, and that's 100% right. That's exactly what we're looking to do there. Okay, that's relatively straightforward and hasn't done much more than just using the formatting, and we're just using the formatting to get the rounding to happen. The next thing it asks you to do then is look at the number squared to 3 decimal places. So squaring the number basically means multiplying it by itself, which we could do as a wee maths calculation. But I mentioned down here that you may need to perform several maths operations, and you could do them manually, or you could go looking and saying, is there anything else there that we could use? And there is a class within Java in java.lang.math. So this is an import class, and what we're going to do with it is that we're going to use some of the properties within that. So again, I'll go back to solution and we will show you what we can do. So this is the next part of it. Just going to copy and paste it in. So the first bit is just a rounded value. The next bit of it is looking at the squared number. Now, math, okay, we'll go as far as just explaining this bit of it, which is not a huge amount different from what we had before. This, obviously the first one was just an output, system.out.printf. This is the same, system.out.printf. Here's a bit of literal text. Here is the number which is going to go in here. We'll look at this and we'll look at this part in a wee second separately. But this again is just a formatted placeholder to say the number that goes in here, I would like it to be a float, and it's going to also have dot and 3, which means it's going to have 3 decimal places in there. So again, we're using the formatting to put it out to 3 decimal places. But what we'd also want to do here is that we also want to find not just the number to 3 decimal places, we want to do a bit of work with it. So the input number, regardless of what way it comes in, we want that number to be squared. So to do so, we're going to use this. Okay, so rather than just reference the value, what we're going to do is we're going to do some work with the value to end up putting it here. So the class that we're using is called math. So if I take the mouse over to that, you'll see it's in math java.lang.math. That's the package name for it. Notice that I didn't have to import that. So this isn't like the scanner where I had to import the thing. What I had to do here is practically nothing, because there are a certain amount of classes in Java that are given to you for free, if you like. You don't have to import them because they're so regularly used, and this is one of them. So this one we didn't need to import. So when you type in math and then go, I'll just do it, why not? Okay, so if I go math dot, you'll see it gives us, again, it's a bit like typing the name of a string and then going dot, or well, the string's as good an example as any, or the scanner dot, and it gives you a load of things to do. Math is another one of these classes. These are known as static methods, which means that eventually we'll cover this in the course. You don't need to instantiate the class to get access to it. So if you like, you just go math dot and have a load of things here. As you can see, there are absolutely tons of things here with it, and if you're really interested, what you can do is click on that and it will give you a wee bit of information. So that's cost, that's trigonometry. We're not going in that direction. But what we are particularly interested in is raising something to the power. So in other words, we're going to square this number and we're raising it to the power of 2. So let's click on this again. Rather than read through this back, I'm sort of pointing you in the direction with it. So math.power. Okay, so what does this actually do? So it returns the value of the first argument. This is the first argument here. So the first value that we give inside this function call or math, this procedural call to the math class is the argument. So this is the first argument. It returns the value of the first argument raised to the power of the second argument. So in other words, whatever number we have placed in here is going to be raised by 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. In this case, we're obviously just going to put a 2 here and square the number. And it returns it. So again, this bit where it goes public and static, this bit of it here just before the name of the function says I'm going to give you a double. This is a double value coming back. So when it goes off and does its bit of maths, it's going to come back and say, by the way, here's the answer and here's the format. And that's okay with us because we're dealing with a generic sort of floating point number here with the formatting. So that's all good. So I'm going to go for this, okay? You click on it and it'll fill in most of the blanks for you, but it's encouraging you to say, okay, so the first argument is the number that we want to use. So that's input number. This is the number that comes in from the keyboard, from the user, and we want to square that number. So to square it, we're saying raising it to the power of 2. Okay, so again, probably don't need that wee bit of extra space there. It's not that it's going to do anything to the program. And that should be it. So in short, what's about to happen here, it's going to go system.out.println. It's going to put all this on the screen. Before it does this, actually prints out that value, says this is a marker for something happening over here. The something happening over here happens after a comma, and it says, okay, math.power. So this is a way off doing something else, and then eventually whatever comes out of that gets plunked in here. The thing that's happening here is a function call to the math class. It passes in the number that we have been given by the user, and it's going to go off and do all the maths for us, and it's basically, you don't need to even know what it's doing, other than we know that it's going to multiply these two numbers together, or in this case raise it to the power of 2, same difference, and give us the value in there. So let's have a run at this one and see what it does. So again, we'll put our number in 20.09, something like that. Hit enter, and this is still working, so I haven't broken anything here, which is good. This is our new stuff. Number squared to 3 decimal places. There's our 3 decimal places, so check, that's grand. And this, again, 20 times 20, roughly speaking, that's in the right direction with a 0.9 at the end there. Again, if you wanted to test something like that, the best way to do that, get your calculator out, make sure you're doing it right. Okay, so that's that one. the other one then we'll look at, the next one is really just looking, the next part of it is just cubing the number. Again, to cube the number, again you have to think, well, how do I go off and do that? Do I go to the bother of multiplying that times 3 by itself? Or what I could just do is say, well look, I want to cube this number, I'm going to change the parameter arguments here. So this is really straightforward if you think it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is number cubed, which again it's just multiplying by itself, to 3 decimal places. I think it was meant to be 3 decimal places, so I'm okay with that. So everything else is good here. I'm making the same call here, but instead of this argument being 2, it should be 3. So basically what I'm getting at here is that you don't need to be a maths genius here. What it's doing is going to do the work for you. Where you come in as a programmer, and regularly what you'll need to be able to do is read a spec. In other words, read this and say, well, what does this actually mean? So it means in this case, the second argument is the number that you're raising it to. So in other words, it's doing something like, if you were given the number 2, it's going 2 times 2 times 2. That's basically what it's doing. And if you want to write that out, that's 2 cubed with a small 3. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's going to work, so I'm going to give it a wee squeeze and see. So enter a decimal number. We'll put in 3 something like that. Okay, and I'll scroll that across. Yeah, that looks probably within reason then. Times 3. Yep, looks about right. Again, the only way to do that, the best way to do it, get your calculator out and try it out. Okay, so that's again just to understand the function that again you wouldn't have seen before, but it's been able to reuse what's already out there, and that's the skill and part of what we're trying to do here. The next one then I'd ask you to do is work out a square root. So to be able to work out a square root, it's down to 4 decimal places. Okay, so again the format is going to change there, but the square root of this number that comes in. Okay, if you've got a calculator, you can just hit the square root button once you type in a number, and we basically want to do something similar to that. There's bound to be a function in Java that allows you to do that. So again, I'm going to copy and paste a load of stuff in here, but let's just take it from, we'll take it roughly from here. We need to edit this, but so number squared, okay, to 4 decimal places, and again we need to update this, so it's 4 decimal places, but now we need to do a bit of work. We need to figure out how are we going to get this number and find the square root of it. So I'm way off to the math class again. I'm going to have a wee look through the math class to see what we've got. Chances are square root is, if you use your wit, it's probably going to be down there in the square root direction with beginning with S. So a lot of stuff here, sine, cos, all that sort of stuff, subtract, oh, there's a square root. Okay, so let's click on that. What does it say? Returns a correctly rounded positive square root of a double value. Perfect, that's what we want. There's one argument going in and returns this bit of here, saying it's returning a double. So square root, again, it's you're plugging this together, so it's an input number that goes in there. That's really all we need to do here. Don't see there's anything else we're missing. And again, if I'm missing something and it runs and it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world, because we can easily fix it. Okay, so no great loss if it runs and breaks. So number squared, 4 decimal places, 4 decimal places, square root, and we're providing the right argument. We don't need any other numbers out here because this is a different function call. This is a square root call, and it tells us, give me one number in, I'll give you one number back. These guys are different. The math.power is different because you're saying, give me the number, and also in what way are you going to raise it to the power. I'm happy to have a go at this, and no fear, and let's see what it does. So let's put in 21.000. Okay, and there you go. So these numbers all look fairly consistent. I probably need to tidy stuff up here to make it look the part. Again, leave it as you're meant to have the output. Number square root, 4 decimal places, 4 point blah blah. It's definitely 4 decimal places. Square root of 21. Yeah, it looks about right to me. Okay, again, take your calculator out and try it out. Okay, so that's the first one there. Don't like this name here. Shouldn't have done that. Okay, so that looks sort of untidy. But again, these things happen. You're typing stuff in. It's easy for you to make a typo. What you can't do though is this. Okay, it's going to say, listen, hold on a minute. You just change the name of that class, but I'm also got this thing out here. The underlying name of the class hasn't changed, but you changed something here, so I'm going to change it back to where it was. But what I'm going to do is show you how to do that properly, so that you're not breaking this and potentially other bits of code that rely on this class. Of course, this is standalone at the minute, but this is a good principle. So just highlight the thing you want to change, right click, and we're going to go to refactor, and we're going to go to rename. So this is going to allow us to rename this class, but it's going to do it safely, and it's going to do it really handily for us, because it's going to rename this also. So it says there, please enter, and then basically give it a name, then hit enter. So once we do that, it's going to say, listen, I'm going to let you know, but it's going to make a few changes here. The changes obviously will be here and here. There's nothing else really affected code-wise. If I click on continue, you'll see what it did is it changed that, but it also changed that out here. Now again, that's not a major deal. You wouldn't think it's a major deal, but it will be something significant to you when you go forward and this class is being used by another class and you want to rename it for whatever reason. There's another thing I want to mention to you in the way past here. The scanner, as you notice, has got a wee line under it here. That wee line is saying, listen, you've opened this thing, a thing known as a resource leak. It's basically saying you've opened up this resource, and this resource happens to be the scanner, but you never closed it. So there are certain classes and certain resources, especially if you're connecting to a database, for instance, that if you open up a connection to it, then you need to close it after that. Now, the way in which the scanner is declared here is within a method, and it's saying to us, listen, would you mind closing this thing here, because it's opened. Now, in all intents and purposes, for our class, it doesn't matter at all, because our class basically is just from the running of it is just from here down to here, and it's done, and it doesn't leave the system resource open. But that might be a big deal if there's many other classes that are relying on the scanner. It doesn't really matter to us, but again, good principle, and it's going to moan anyway. So the scanner bit there that's moaning, what I'm going to do is when I'm finished with the class, which is pretty much down here, scanner dot, and you'll see it's got a value here or a method called scanner.close, and it will close the scanner. You'll see later on in the course we'll actually create the scanner somewhere else within the class, and it sort of deals with it itself. In fact, Java has another mechanism to actually almost make it almost foolproof, not quite, but almost foolproof, that whenever you open a resource it'll actually close it for you. But again, this is good principles, good sort of underlying engineering knowledge, that we've opened a resource and we got to close that resource. Again, if you wanted to just show off and say closing resources down here, looks very impressive. If you're going for an interview, that would look pretty impressive. Okay, so that's the first part of that practical, and more to come.